Hey, it's Shane with Yes to Jesus Ministries, and today I just want to bring you a word from Job. Now, I was reading through Job recently, and I just began to see Jesus everywhere. And you know, when I think about that happening, I think about it's Luke 24:25, where it says, He, being Jesus, opened up their minds that they may understand the Scripture. So this was post-resurrection, when they would have been having a fuller revelation now of who He truly was and is, and what it means in the grand scheme of things. And so us as believers, when we read through like the Old Testament, now we can see it through the fuller perspective, the more complete perspective of who Jesus is after He came and died and was resurrected and now lives in us. And so in chapter 38, God is answering Job after all of this discourse from his three friends and even Job's rebuttal of that. But a couple things stood out. So in 38, so in verse 4, it says, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth?" Now remember, Jesus is the Lamb that was slain before the foundation of the earth. But look at 6. It says, "To what were its foundations fastened, and who laid its cornerstone?" Oh, I just was reading through this, and I was like, there He is, right there. Jesus is the cornerstone. Like we know that from Psalm 118, right? The stone the builders have rejected has become the cornerstone. Well, guess what? He was the Lamb that was slain before the foundation of the earth. He was the cornerstone to which it was fastened. He's the one that holds it all together. So look at Colossians 1:16, right? Things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. Just pointing out what was really important to people that they could perceive, but visible and invisible. All things were created by Him and for Him. He is before all things. He was the Lamb that was slain before all things, and the cornerstone before all things. Right? And to finish out that last part of Colossians 1:16, and in Him all things hold together. Why? He's the cornerstone they're fastened to. Now look again at that verse, 38:6. To what were its foundations fastened? What holds everything together? Who laid its cornerstone? Well, who is its cornerstone? The one who laid it is. It's Jesus. He also quotes that in Matthew 21:42. That Psalm 118, section 118:22. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. He made sure they knew what He was saying and that it is Him. And here it is, right here. And even more so, like on down, just these little details pop out. Knowing who He is and some of the things that He did later. If you look at 38:16, it says, "Have you entered the springs of the sea? Or have you walked in search of the depths?" And I was reading this and it just struck me. How amazing would it be to see Jesus walking in search of the depths? I mean, we know, in the deepest parts of the ocean, it's like 5 or 6 miles deep. And they wouldn't have even known at the time, but it would be impossible. Even if somebody could dive down there, you wouldn't even survive, right? Because they're under, I don't know what it is, 10, 20 atmospheres of pressure down there, whatever technically it is, but it would just crush you. Like the submersible that has to go down to that to be able to survive, it's like got to be able to withstand all that pressure. Anything that exists down there, and it's not a lot. Maybe there's some fish and stuff, but they have to have the same internal pressure as the external pressure. And actually, that's what happens to us when we walk in the Lord, right? Because He's the one inside. But I bring this to your attention because Jesus showed us a more practical version of this. When he walked on the water. He did it in the middle of the storm. Like, not to be silly, but if this was at the Olympics and there was a degree of difficulty, it would be harder in a storm, right? Not to be silly, but you see what I'm saying, right? He did it in there. That doesn't even compare to walking in search of the depths. But no one could have seen him do that. Was he doing that already? I would say, if you look at Job 38:16, yeah. He's the only one. If he could walk in the depths, imagine him walking along the bottom of the ocean 5 miles down. Hair's perfect. Probably not even some oxygen bubbles holding it all together. But he did it in a way we could see it, so that his power and authority could be fully demonstrated and talked about for thousands of years while he led many into his kingdom forever, beyond all these physical limitations. And that's actually what he's demonstrating here. These physical things, their limitations, they're going to go away, but my truth remains. And I'm before all things. I hold them all together. Nothing is impossible with me. I can do anything. I can walk in the depths, and I can walk on the water. And if I call you out on the water, so can you. May he open the scriptures for you. Open your mind for you that you may understand. Go spend some time with him and read it. He will. May this bless you.